Are you protesting COP here today?
I'm not exactly protesting COP. I'm talking to all of the young people and others who are here making their voice heard. I think it's incredibly important to hear their voice. And there's always a thing with these international meetings that they tend to be quite restricted and exclusive. And I don't think we'd have seen the progress we've seen if it hadn't been for the voice of civil society demanding action. And I think it's important that they're here doing that.
Do you think this is an organisation, an audience that recognises there has been progress?
I think some people do and some people don't. But I think that two things can be true at once. One is progress has been made, and the second is it's wholly insufficient to the scale of the emergency we face. And so I think what I hear from some people here is that, yes, there's been progress, and yes, I feel things are a bit better, but at the same time, 2030 is what matters, and we're not moving fast enough. And I think that is probably right. That's probably a fair summary.
One thing I've been asking people here today is whether or not they support nuclear power on our pathway to net zero. Where does the Labour Party stand on that?
We support nuclear power. I think it's important to have new nuclear as a supporting role for, if you look at what the Climate Change Committee says, it says about 80% of our power can come from renewables, but nuclear has an important supporting role. New nuclear has an important supporting role. And so for some people that's difficult because some people have had a long-standing anti-nuclear power position, but I think it's got an important supporting role.
And do you think the climate movement is moving towards nuclear power?
I think some parts of the climate movement are moving towards it and some parts aren't. And some people want it all done by renewables. But I think, my view is you need all the power sources at your disposal. If the problem is so great and so urgent that you can't afford to reject any of the sources at our disposal.
It was interesting, I was speaking to someone earlier asking them which G20 country they thought had done the best in terms of reducing emissions. They said Germany, which of course is a country that closed its nuclear power stations and its CO2 stopped going down for a decade as a result. Actually, in the G20, the country that's reduced its CO2 emissions by the largest amount in the last 30 years is the UK. Do you think people know that?
I think some people know that, but I think we should be proud of lots of the things that we've done, and our targets are very competitive in terms of internationally. I think there's a question about delivery on the targets in the coming decade, and I think it's against a background where no G20 country is doing enough. And I think it's quite, look, China is not doing enough, and we need to push China to do more. But I think it's also right to acknowledge that every major country should be going further and faster. Even the target to halve emissions this decade, which we're a long way off from, only gives us I'm not trying to depress you, but only gives us a 50-50 chance of keeping global warming to 1.5 degrees. That is the scale, we've left it all far too late, and that's the scale of the change that we need.